Hey guys, Kurt Hughes here with Ignite Baseball. We're taking a look at the scissor finish here today. And on the left, we have guys that don't scissor finish. And on the right, we have guys that do. So I have Chris Bryant on the right, Chris Davis on the left. I also have a couple other guys lined up as well that we're going to look at in a second. But I'm just going to quickly define what the scissor finish is for those of you that are curious of what the heck it is I'm talking about. So essentially what that means is that during the swing or towards the end of the swing, this back foot on the hitter is going to kind of kick out in this direction. And with the guys that don't, you'll see that the back foot and knee will kind of move more like at us versus, to like away from home plate. So let's look at the scissor first. This is a bomb that Chris Bryant hit a couple years ago that I just had on my iPad, so I decided to just use it. Now you'll see that in the end of the scissor finish, really what has happened is the front foot ends up more in towards the plate. The back foot ends up, further away from the plate, and the pelvis is in the center. And what it really establishes is it gives a hitter width between their feet. Thus, they can balance at the end of their swing. So you'll see with Davis, he does that a little differently. So you'll see the foot kick back just a tick. But what we see is that the width of his feet is maintained a different way. So here's his back foot, here's his front foot, and his pelvis is in the center here. So you'll see that in Davis's case, his back foot is closer to home plate rather than further away than like in Bryant's case. So that's kind of the distinction that we're looking at here, scissor versus not scissoring. So what you'll notice in most of these hitters that we're looking at here, and I think this is probably the thing that's most optimal about any of this. You'll notice that most of these hitters, you won't see these lines. When I draw these lines, I mean a line by the front foot, a line by the center of the pelvis, and a line by the back foot. You won't see these lines really, really close together. Now, you will see this in some hitters, but I essentially liken this to like standing on a tightrope. So when you see a hitter that lands in there, I'm just going to draw the lines over here on the left. I want you to imagine them very similar to the way that I drew the lines over here, like for Bryant, and over on the left for Davis, okay? So if I draw the lines here, if this is the front foot line, this is the center of the pelvis line, and this is the back foot line, essentially what you have happening here is that the feet are balancing so close to the center of the mass, it's almost like you're standing on a tightrope, and your ability to rotate with a strong base is really not good at that point, because at the end you're going to be wobbly. Now, if you ever played something like basketball, if you were going to try to, do a crossover against another player or something like that, you'd be, afraid of balancing at the end if every time that you tried it, you kind of fell over or were wobbly, so you'd go a lot slower and maybe get the ball stolen. Now, in this case, when you're a hitter, we want to be able to go really, really fast and not slow up. So having a base that allows us to be supported in our movements at the end of our swing is really, really important. So let's look at a couple more here. So I have Francisco Lindor lined up here next for the people that don't scissor. Oh, sorry. Here we go. So Lindor, as he gets into his swing, you'll see he does his turn, and if I stopped him right here, you'd be like, oh wow, he's tight roping, just like I was just talking about a second ago. His front foot, back foot, middle of the pelvis, you'll see they're really, really close. But look at what he does in his next movement. That foot falls that way, allows him to balance, so he establishes a ton of width, so he can turn really, really fast. Now, essentially, the scissor does something very similar, as we're looking at over here with Bryant, and we'll be looking at over here for Enrique Hernandez. The scissor allows us to establish this width, giving us balance, allowing us to turn really fast through the ball. And this establishes a lot of really good things. And you'll notice how leaned over Enrique Hernandez is here. Now imagine if you were standing on a tightrope and you tried to lean over like that, you would fall over every single time. So if you want to get a really nice hip hinge, or just if you want to be able to side bend a lot, which we see almost every single good major league hitter do, then the width of our feet at the end of our swing is really, really important, because if you're leaned over like this or like this, you can see Hernandez is drastically leaned over. If we do this and we don't have width to our feet at the end, we will fall on our butt. So it's really important that we continue to do that, and we work on that as we do our swing. Now, if you're a hitter and if you're a parent and you're watching this and you're thinking, okay, well, what type of drill should I stay away from, and what type of drills should I gravitate to if I want to train this and, really stay away from the balancing on a 2i4 or tightrope or whatever you want to call it type of pattern? Well, what you really need to do is just not do the 2x4 drill and allow kids to finish athletically. Now, if you see their foot kicking out behind them in their swing, then it's not necessarily something that you have to cue for them to stop, because we see that at the highest levels. Now, if we see them pulling their foot straight or kind of kicking it out towards the plate like we see Lindor do, and we're going to see Barry Bonds do in just a second, once again, not something that we want to steer guys away from, because we see that at the highest levels. But the width thing is really important, especially for younger hitters, because a lot of them really struggle to establish balance at the end of their swing. And balance is really important, as we talked about before, just for confidence in your ability to finish your turn. And here's Baez, and you're going to see that he kicks out a little bit too. And I think Baez is really unique because he kicks out and scissors not all the time. He does it sometimes, but a lot of that is based on his stride direction. So for Baez, relative to where his back foot is, when he lands, you can see his front foot is landing probably like right here. So his stride direction is kind of like this. So we know he's diving in towards the plate a little bit. And as a result, as you dive in towards the plate, the biomechanically supported movement in order to get yourself balanced at the end is to kind of kick your foot back a little bit. So as a general rule, most people that kind of dive in and step towards the plate will have that scissor move, where those that don't dive in towards the plate will typically have that scissor move less. Here's Story doing the same scissor move as well, kicking out here, okay, which allows him that balance at the finish. Now we'll see Bonds doing the same thing that Lindor was doing over here on the left. Crushes this ball, and you'll see that foot will fall in towards the plate, allowing him a wide base to establish his balance at the end. So really important, guys, that we're not limiting guys' athleticism or girls' athleticism in their finish. Really, whatever we see their back foot doing, as long as the hip is able to move, a long way and get, our belly button, to the pitcher, and our back shoulders turned, or sorry, not our back shoulders, but our torso turned as far as we can. And we don't want to limit athleticism, and we don't want to overcoach that finish, especially with the way the feet move. If you guys have questions, feel free to leave me a comment. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. I try to post videos every week. And if you're watching on Facebook, please like my page. It's really appreciated. Hope you guys have a great day.